No contact. The dark psychology of no contact with women. Old Stoic wisdom? Sometimes, the hardest part isn't letting go, but realizing you were never held in the first place. Let's cut through the fantasy and get to the truth. When a woman returns after you've gone silent, it's not always because love pulled her back. It's not because she woke up one morning with a sudden epiphany that you're the one. And it's certainly not because she's been pining away, overwhelmed by your absence. The truth? It's colder. And it hits harder. Many women come back not because they miss you, but because they miss the control they had over you. When you implement true no contact, no calls, no texts, no breadcrumbs, you break a pattern. You remove her from the throne she got comfortable sitting on. You stop feeding her ego, stop being predictable, and most importantly, you stop chasing. And that unsettles her. She starts to wonder, has he moved on? Is someone else getting his attention now? Wait, am I no longer the center of his world? That uncertainty sparks something powerful. Not love, control, anxiety, a fear of no longer having emotional leverage. Here's where most men slip. She reaches out, and he thinks it's romance. He thinks it's destiny. So he opens the floodgates, texts her back too fast, offers too much too soon, starts proving himself again. Just like that, the power shifts. She's back in control. And the cycle starts all over. Here's the uncomfortable wisdom. No contact isn't a magic trick to win her heart. It's a psychological reset. It forces her to feel your absence, to sit with the silence she once expected you to fill. But it's not just about getting her back. It's about reclaiming your power, your emotional discipline, your self-respect. When you truly understand why she comes back, the real question becomes, do you still want her now that you're no longer under her spell? Because that is what real Stoic wisdom teaches. Control yourself, and you control the outcome. Master your emotions, and you master the game. 1. She misses the power she had over you. She misses the power she had over you, not necessarily because she loves you or wants you back, but because the power dynamic that once made her feel in control is suddenly gone. When a woman senses that she can dictate the pace of a relationship, how often you reach out, how much effort you put in, how quickly you respond, she feels secure, validated, and in command. This isn't always conscious manipulation. In fact, most of the time it's subtle and automatic. But make no mistake, the power she held over your emotional reactions gave her a sense of superiority. And when that power is suddenly taken away, when you stop texting, stop calling, stop chasing, she's forced to confront a truth she's not used to facing. She no longer has control over you. This is where the no contact rule becomes incredibly powerful. The moment you go silent, the moment you remove yourself from her emotional grip, everything shifts. You're no longer feeding the system she thrived in. You've pulled back your attention, your energy, your emotional availability, and in doing so, you've taken back your power. Now she's left in the dark. She doesn't know what you're thinking, what you're doing, or if you've already moved on. That uncertainty can be haunting. At first, she might feel relieved by the space. She might even convince herself that she's fine without you. But over time, the silence starts to echo. The questions creep in. Does he miss me? Why hasn't he reached out? Is he talking to someone else? And the longer your silence stretches, the louder those questions become in her mind. You see, your absence starts to carry more weight than your presence ever did. That's the paradox. When you were always available, she could predict you. She could control the situation. But now, she doesn't know if the man she once controlled emotionally has disappeared for good. And here's the key insight. If she does reach out, it's not always because she wants to fix things. It's often to test if she still has that same influence over you. She wants to see if the leash still works. But a stoic man, a man who has reclaimed his inner strength, knows better. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This isn't about playing games. It's about discipline. It's about understanding your value and not handing your emotional energy to someone who only appreciated it when it was easy to take. So if you're deep in no contact right now, wondering if she's thinking about you, wondering if you should break the silence, don't. The silence is working. The uncertainty is doing what your words never could. You're showing her through action that you're not a man to be emotionally toyed with. You are not cold, you are calm. You're not vengeful, you are focused. You're no longer seeking validation from someone who used to hold power over you. You've stepped into the mindset of a man who leads himself. As Epictetus once said, the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. Let her wonder. Let her feel what it's like to be on the other side of the power she once had. And most importantly, use this time to rebuild yourself. Not for her, but for you. If this message spoke to something inside you, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your story, your growth, could be the inspiration another man needs right now. Take Mark and Sarah. Mark was always the one texting Sarah, making plans and showing how much he cared. When Sarah stopped putting in the effort, Mark was still there, chasing her. But then Mark decided to stop. He stopped texting, stopped calling, and gave her no reaction. Sarah, who had been used to getting his attention so easily, began to feel the shift. She no longer had the upper hand. Weeks later she reached out, but not to express how much she missed him. She wanted to see if he would still chase. It wasn't about him. It was about her feeling in control again. 2. You stop chasing, and it drives her crazy. When you stop chasing a woman, you shatter the rhythm she once relied on, the unspoken dance where she was always the one being pursued, validated, and assured of her place in your world. For many women, the pursuit isn't just flattering, it becomes a source of psychological reinforcement, a mirror reflecting their desirability and power. Your consistent texts, calls, and efforts created a kind of emotional safety net for her, even if she acted indifferent. That attention, whether acknowledged or not, formed a pattern in her mind, one that told her, I am wanted, I am chosen. So when that pattern is suddenly broken, when your energy pulls back and you no longer orbit around her, something inside her shifts. It's like a light going off in a room she never thought would go dark. That silence you introduce, it's louder than any conversation you've ever had. It forces her to sit alone with her thoughts, to replay memories, to wonder where she went wrong. She may have taken you for granted when you were always available, but now, that absence, it echoes. She begins to feel the emptiness where your attention used to be, and that void is unsettling. In modern terms, your absence becomes a psychological trigger. You're not posting, not commenting, not reacting. She starts asking herself questions she's never had to consider. Has he moved on? Who's he talking to now? Did I lose something valuable without realizing it? The balance of power shifts dramatically, and what once felt secure now feels fragile. You see, in a world where constant digital validation has made people crave attention like oxygen, withdrawing yours is the most powerful move you can make. You're not being cruel, you're reclaiming your value, your energy, your peace. Let's revisit James and Emily, a story that mirrors many real-life situations today. James was always the initiator, the planner, the admirer. Emily basked in the glow of his attention, but never felt the urgency to reciprocate, believing his presence was guaranteed. But when James stopped, truly stopped, everything changed. No more texts, no comments on her selfies, no signs of life from the man who once made her feel adored. At first, Emily brushed it off. She assumed James would eventually return to his usual patterns. But days passed, then weeks, and James stayed silent. That silence gnawed at her, slowly turning her confidence into confusion. She began to check her phone more often, revisit their last conversations, stalk his online activity looking for signs. Finally, unable to take it anymore, she reached out under the guise of something casual, just to feel that connection again. But James wasn't playing games. He was living the Stoic principle of self-respect. He was no longer trying to prove his worth to someone who didn't recognize it. His silence was not a tactic. It was a declaration, I know who I am. I know what I bring. And here's the wisdom. You don't chase what doesn't see your value. You walk away and let absence teach the lesson presence could not. In today's world, where instant gratification and emotional dependence have blurred the lines of genuine connection, pulling away becomes the ultimate test of whether she values you or just the feeling of being wanted. So men, remember this. Stop running towards someone who doesn't turn around. Live your life. Invest in yourself. Let her wonder. Because when you remove your energy from someone who once relied on it, that void you leave behind becomes your most powerful message. It says more than words ever could. I am no longer chasing, because I am no longer lost. That, my friend, is the power of no contact, the dark psychology that sets the Stoic man apart. 3. No contact makes her feel like she's losing control. When you go no contact, you flip the entire game on its head. And that's exactly why it works. You're not ghosting her. You're not playing childish games. You're reclaiming your power like a man who finally sees through the illusion. Control to most women isn't about manipulating you. It's about being able to predict you. It's about knowing your next move, your next text, your level of care. Predictability gives her comfort. Certainty gives her leverage. But the moment you go silent, you shatter that structure. And make no mistake, this shakes her. Deeply, emotionally, psychologically. She's no longer in the driver's seat. She no longer has the advantage of knowing when and how you'll reach out. You used to be the open book, remember? Always available, always eager, always responding. And now, that chapter has closed. Now she's reading blank pages, and that makes her uncomfortable, nervous, restless. Her mind starts spinning. What's he thinking? Is he done with me? Has he moved on to someone better? She won't say it out loud, but that silence you deliver, it echoes, and it pierces through the armor of her ego. Women don't fear losing a man. They fear losing a man who is pulled away with certainty. That is what no contact delivers. Certainty on your end and uncertainty on hers. That imbalance disturbs the emotional equilibrium she thought she controlled. Her pride. It's bruised, because deep down, every time she controlled the tempo of your attention, she felt superior. But now, you're no longer dancing to her rhythm. You've changed the beat. And when she realizes she can't predict or influence you like before, that's when panic sets in. That's when curiosity burns. That's when she starts thinking, maybe I underestimated him. Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." And brother, that's what you're doing. You're letting go of what you can't control, her reactions, her emotions, her power games, and stepping into a position of dominance by controlling your response. You're no longer a puppet on emotional strings. You're the one holding the strings now. This isn't bitterness. It's strategy. It's clarity. It's wisdom. It's the calm, calculated stance of a man who understands detachment is not weakness, it is power. Let her feel the silence. Let her feel the loss of control. Let her wonder, because in wondering, she remembers your value. In silence, she hears your strength. In your absence, she begins to crave what she once took for granted. This is reverse psychology at its most refined level. It triggers the human urge to pursue what feels unattainable. And that, my friend, is when the chase begins. Not from you, but to you. So if you're a man standing in this position right now, do not flinch. Do not fold. Hold your frame. Stay silent. Be still, like a mountain unmoved by the winds of her emotions. That's the Stoic way. That's the power of no contact. Drop a comment below and say, I am in control now. If this message hit you like a sword of clarity, like subscribe, and share this with a man who needs to reclaim his throne. Let's make silence our sharpest weapon. Comment this below to claim your power. My silence is my strength. 4. She can't handle being replaced. One of the most psychologically powerful triggers that compels a woman to reappear after you've gone silent is not just the silence itself, but the haunting realization that she might be replaced. In the early stages of no contact, she might appear unaffected, perhaps even cold or indifferent, convincing herself and even others that she's just fine without you. But here's where the deeper layers of the mind come into play. As the days pass and your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was, a question starts creeping into her thoughts like a shadow she can't shake. Has he moved on? That very possibility that you've started seeing someone else, that another woman might now hear your stories, laugh at your jokes, receive your attention, strikes at the core of her emotional identity. You see, distance she can endure, silence she can ignore. But being replaced, that's a different kind of pain altogether. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. By withdrawing, you're reclaiming your power, and in doing so, you shift the psychological balance. When she sees no messages, no attempts to reconnect, and no signs of emotional pursuit from your side, her imagination starts to do the work for you. It whispers, what if he doesn't need me anymore? What if someone else is making him smile now? This uncertainty eats away at her confidence, because it's no longer about love, it's about status, ego, and the ancient instinct to remain relevant in the eyes of a man who once prioritized her. Women thrive not just on affection, but on the feeling of being chosen above all others. And when that certainty is threatened, even the most confident woman feels the tremble of emotional instability. Seneca, one of the great Stoics, wisely said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And it's precisely her imagination that begins to torment her. That imagined image of you with another woman becomes unbearable, not because she wants you back per se, but because she can't accept losing her value in your eyes. You become the mirror in which she once saw her desirability. Without you, she doesn't just lose a man, she loses the confirmation of her emotional significance. That's why no contact isn't just about ignoring her texts or avoiding conversations. It's a psychological battlefield where silence becomes a weapon more piercing than words. She might try to check up on you subtly, reactivate old memories, or even message you under the pretense of something trivial. But behind that thin veil lies the same urgent question: have I been replaced? Her competitive instinct kicks in, not always driven by love, but by the deep-seated fear of irrelevance. She wants to reassert herself, to test whether she still holds the same power over you, to see if she can still stir a reaction. And that's when you, the man who has embraced Old Stoic wisdom, must stay anchored. The Stoics taught that true strength comes from controlling what you can, your own mind, your actions, and your emotional response, and releasing your grip on what you cannot control, like her reactions or decisions. Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." So while she might spiral into insecurity, you remain calm, composed, and unmoved. This isn't about manipulation. It's about mastering your emotions and refusing to chase what's already running. Real life has shown us time and time again, whether in relationships or business, that when someone senses they are easily replaced, their behavior changes drastically. And when a woman sees that you're not only surviving without her, but potentially thriving, her sense of loss intensifies. That's when the tables turn. So if you're walking this road of silence right now, remember, it's not the absence of communication that speaks volumes, it's the absence of need. When you don't need her to feel worthy, powerful, or whole, you become the man she can't forget. A man who values his peace over temporary pleasure. A man who lives by the ancient wisdom that inner strength is built in silence, not in begging. And here's where I want to hear from you. Have you ever used no contact and seen this kind of response? Have you experienced a shift in power, clarity, or peace? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments. Someone out there needs your experience to make sense of their own. Comment to remember, I attract with silence and strength. If this hits home, like, share, and subscribe for more Stoic wisdom. 5. You were the one who was always available. Let's have a brutally honest conversation, man to man. One of the most dangerous mistakes many men make in modern relationships is becoming too available. You know what I mean? You drop everything when she texts, cancel your plans the moment she calls, rearrange your entire world just to be at her side, thinking this constant presence will win her heart. But here's where the old Stoics would stop you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." And being a good man doesn't mean being a doormat. In fact, this habit of constant availability doesn't create love, it breeds contempt. What begins as sweet attention quickly morphs into something that reeks of desperation. And women, especially emotionally intelligent women, can smell desperation like a storm in the distance. It's not attractive, it's not magnetic, it's not powerful. Instead of admiration, she feels suffocated. Why? Because psychology, especially the darker corners of it, teaches us that people don't value what's always within reach. Think about it. The rare diamond is coveted. The abundant pebble is ignored. When you're always available, always responding, always showing up without hesitation, you become emotionally cheap in her mind. Your presence loses its weight. Your attention loses its meaning. You become background noise instead of a force to be reckoned with. And deep down, you know this. You feel it when she pulls away, when her replies get colder, when your efforts feel unnoticed. But you keep trying harder, thinking if you just show up a little more, she'll finally see your worth. Brother, she won't. Because the more you chase, the more she runs. Stoic wisdom reminds us to control what is within and release what is not. Epictetus would say, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." So yes, it might feel foolish at first to pull back, to say no to her request, to ignore the text for a few hours, but that space, that silence, that calm detachment, that is where power begins to shift. You're not playing games. You're reclaiming dignity. The man who leads his own life with purpose, who doesn't bend his schedule like a puppet on a string, becomes a challenge again, a mystery, a mountain she must climb. In modern life, this means diving into your career, your health, your passions, not to punish her, but to re-center yourself. You must become the kind of man who has something going on without her. Because when she realizes you are not waiting by the phone, that's when curiosity begins to rise. And curiosity is the seed of desire. She'll wonder what you're doing, who you're with, why you're no longer orbiting around her. And that's when the dynamic flips. You stop being the man she assumes will always be there and become the man she hopes will show up again. It's not about cruelty. It's about composure. It's not about revenge. It's about respect for yourself. Remember this, the sun doesn't chase the planets. It simply shines, and everything revolves around it. So shine, brother. Focus on your mission. 6. She hates the silence because it exposes her feelings. Silence is not weakness. It is power. It is control. It is the sword you wield when words no longer serve your mission. And when a man of true Stoic discipline walks away and chooses silence, true silence, he triggers something far more potent than anger. He triggers introspection. For her, this silence is not just absence, it's a mirror that reflects every suppressed feeling, every regret, every late-night thought she tried to bury beneath the illusion of control. You see, when you stop calling, stop texting, stop chasing, the emotional rhythm she was used to collapses, the music stops playing, and suddenly the silence becomes deafening. That's the dark psychology of no contact. It's not about ignoring her, it's about reclaiming your power by refusing to feed her validation machine. And when the echo chamber goes quiet, she has no choice but to ask herself questions that scare her. Is he over me? Has he moved on? Did I matter at all? That's when the real battle begins. Not between you and her, but between her and her own mind. Women don't fear arguments. They don't fear closure. They fear silence, because silence forces truth. The quieter you become, the more you are able to hear, said Rumi. And when she starts hearing her own emotions without your distractions, that's when she realizes just how deep your absence cuts. You are no longer giving her the emotional cues that kept her safe, kept her superior, kept her in control. Now she is the one chasing meaning. Now she is the one overthinking. And let me tell you something powerful. Even the most confident woman cannot silence the voice inside her head when a man goes completely quiet. You become the question that has no answer, the mystery she can't solve, the storm she thought she escaped, but now finds herself standing in the middle of, with no umbrella. When you go no contact, you're doing more than just ignoring her. You're creating a psychological vacuum, a vacuum that nature hates, and the mind rushes to fill it with doubt, with longing, with a kind of emotional hunger she hasn't felt in years. This isn't manipulation. This is nature. This is psychological equilibrium rebalancing itself. It's the Stoic principle of withdrawing attachment to regain personal sovereignty. He who angers you conquers you, said Elizabeth Kenny. But when you remove yourself, when you detach, when you stay calm and walk in silence, you are no longer hers to conquer. That's why she begins to miss you. Not just the man, but the energy, the presence, the emotional anchor. She replays your words, your touch, your last look before you disappeared. At first, she'll act indifferent, laugh louder, post selfies, pretend you're invisible, but behind that mask is unrest, unease, and eventually a crack. Because here's the Stoic truth. Time reveals character, but silence reveals truth. And the truth is, she cared more than she admitted, even to herself. Your silence is not passive. It is active. It is strategic. It is war without violence. It is victory without bloodshed. When you go no contact, you're not just removing access. You're forcing growth. For her. For you. You're reclaiming your time, your peace, your self-worth. And if she comes back, it's because the silence led her there. Not begging, not crawling, but realizing. And if she doesn't, then your silence still wins because it protected your dignity and exposed the reality. So stand firm, brother. Hold the silence. Let it do the talking. Let it shake her, wake her, or break her. But do not fill the void. Let her feel it. Let her fear it. Let her face herself. Because the man who can walk away in silence is the man who commands the most power. Comment below. My silence is my power. I choose peace, not chaos. Like this if you're reclaiming your throne. Subscribe if you're ready to master this ancient wisdom. The Stoics taught it. Psychology proves it. And now you live it. Comment to remember. My silence is my power. I choose peace, not chaos. Let the world know you've stopped chasing and started leading. Master your time. Build your world. Because the moment you stop making her the center of your universe is the moment she begins to see you as the center of hers. 7. Women love the chase, but they hate losing it. Let's not sugarcoat it. Women are drawn to the chase. It's not just about flirtation or the excitement of a new connection. It taps into something deeper, the psychological thrill of being desired, of being seen as a prize worth pursuing. But here's where many men, especially those in their mature years, often miscalculate. They assume that once they've made their move, once they've expressed their interest and gained her attention, the game is won. But the old Stoics would shake their heads at this illusion, because attraction, much like power or respect, is not something you simply win once. It must be sustained, fed, and upheld through presence, discipline, and purpose. As Marcus Aurelius once said, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And if your thoughts are that the chase ends after the first victory, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Women may adore the chase, but the moment they feel it's over, something shifts. They start to pull back, not out of cruelty, but out of a deeply wired emotional response that equates the end of the pursuit with the end of value. When a woman senses that she no longer has to try, no longer has to feel like she is being earned, that's when disinterest quietly creeps in. See, no contact isn't just about creating space. It's about reawakening that primal sense of longing. It's about reminding her that you are a man of value, one who doesn't chase endlessly, but knows his worth. In Stoic philosophy, Epictetus teaches us that if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. This speaks directly to the wisdom of no contact. Sometimes, when you withdraw, it may seem foolish to others, but you know that you are not withdrawing out of weakness. You are stepping back to create space for her to wonder, to feel the absence, to question what she may have taken for granted. And here's where it gets psychologically fascinating. A woman's mind is attuned to effort. She subconsciously tracks who is trying and who has stopped. When she feels the effort has paused, she doesn't feel relief, she feels uncertainty. And uncertainty is the breeding ground of desire. Now, this doesn't mean you play games or fake disinterest. That's immature and transparent. Instead, live your life with such fullness and strength that she has to keep earning your presence. Maintain your focus. Stay committed to your purpose. Let her see that your life is already rich and meaningful, and that her place in it is earned, not assumed. The chase, in its healthiest form, is not a manipulation, but a dance of energy, mystery, and authenticity. When a woman sees that you're not glued to your phone, waiting on her every text, when she senses that you're out living a purposeful life, not because you're trying to provoke her, but because that's just who you are, that's when her attraction deepens. As Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." The chase is that friction. It's the subtle tension that keeps things alive. So don't fall into the trap of thinking your work is done after the first win. Don't become complacent. Don't lose your edge. The moment you do, she won't say it out loud, but emotionally, she'll begin to drift. Attraction isn't maintained by comfort. It's maintained by polarity, by your ability to remain strong, composed, and just slightly out of reach. That's the dark psychology behind no contact. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. It's you silently saying, "I'm not here to be a puppet for your validation. I'm a man with a mission." And when she realizes that, she'll begin to chase you. Now, I want you to think about your own life. Have you ever noticed that the moment you gave too much too soon, the energy died? Or that the moment you became too available, her interest faded? Reflect on it. Comment below and share your experience. The more we men understand these ancient truths, the more powerful and fulfilling our connections become. Because remember, you are not here to be chosen. You are here to choose. So keep your purpose alive, your standards high, and your mystery intact. She won't just chase you, she'll respect you. And hey, if you've ever had a woman come back after you went no contact, share your story in the comments. I seriously want to hear about it. I'll personally reach out and we'll talk man to man about what really happened, what worked, and how you can keep your power next time. Here's my advice to you. Stop chasing. Start living. You don't need her to validate your worth. When you hold the line and stay calm in the storm, that's when she feels your absence the most. That's when she starts questioning everything. But remember this, just because she comes back doesn't mean she deserves a second chance. That choice is yours. Thanks for tuning in, brother. Stay strong, stay grounded, and as always, this is the Stoic approach to life. See you in the next one.